If you can't watch the full podcast, watch Dostcast Clips to get the best in podcasting in our country. I have a few very, pertinent questions to ask about this.
Sure.
I want to ask you about taste, right?
Yes.
And I have this conversation with many people in my audience, younger people particularly,
Yes.
right? Because I've had a very long journey with taste, right?
Yeah.
My first few years, you acquire the same books as everyone else reads. Maybe
course.
you branch out a little bit. I was lucky to have an interest in rock and roll because I randomly chanced upon
Yeah.
the best of the Eagles in Thailand and a pirated
Yeah.
CD shop for some reason, and that allowed me to sort of veer away from my peers and build a taste in rock. And then for clothing, I have friends, books, right, a whole thing. And now I look at the posters I would adorn my room with would be just drivel from websites, classic rock and whatnot. And I've seen over time, like Jordan Peterson says, you stumble onto taste, you stumble onto beauty. It takes a while, but then you have so much disdain for what you left behind because you're like, oh my god, I was doing this. But do you not think that along the way you come and meet people who are so tasteful and so elegant that they completely change the trajectory of how much beauty you have in your life or how many things you adorn your life with? Have you had people like that, like Avik or someone else who changed the way you dress, who changed the way you behaved, who allowed you to, in a lot of ways, become cultured?
No, absolutely. And I think, what you're describing, I mean, I knew and know people in Bengal like that. Again, people who, they're not all necessarily old money, let me say this. They are people of learning who then happened to make money. When they made money, because they came from learning, they knew what to do with the money.
I see.
They were not all people who began with money at all, right? And I think that's a very interesting journey. We always think that, okay, old money, new money, clear division. I don't think that's so pat at all. I think there could be people who come with learning and then acquire some wealth, and then they know what to do with that wealth, right? Many of my Oxford professors were like that, they didn't always come from money. It's just that they had become, with time, and learning, they had become Oxford dons. So they'd become, very well paid and so on and so forth. And therefore they knew, okay, what did they want to drink? They didn't want to drink what everybody was drinking. There was one thing that they wanted to drink, and what food they wanted and the particular thing that they wanted and so on and so forth. I think taste is something that is always acquired. There are some people who are privileged to have come from backgrounds where there was always taste, so they sort of stumbled
Just picked it
through.
up, yeah.
But there are a lot of people who come from such backgrounds also and become really like crass. That also happens. So I think I would argue very strongly that taste is a byproduct of aesthetics. Aesthetics is a byproduct of learning. By learning, I don't only mean degree-oriented learning, but a certain kind of learning about the world. For the lack of a better word, let's just say societal wisdom, or even just wisdom. So taste, what we call taste, is only the final frontier. But taste is a byproduct of aesthetics. Aesthetics is a byproduct of wisdom. Because what is aesthetics? Aesthetics is knowing not only what you want to consume, but what you should consume, right? I remember writing about, luxury in my Fortune years. There was a period where there was a huge battle between LVMH and Hermes, right? And I went to Paris to talk to the Hermes people and so on and so forth. And LVMH was trying to, take over Hermes through like this, whatever, this predatory move, so to speak. So I met the Hermes CEO, and I remember him saying, if LVMH takes over Hermes, within a year it will no longer remain Hermes. So I asked him, what do you mean by that? And he said, look, I mean, we never tell people you should buy many, many of our handbags or anything at all. Because we make products that will not only, if you keep them properly, last your lifetime, they are products you can bequeath to the next generation. So the idea that you should have, just because you have money, 40 of these products, say handbags, it's a ridiculous idea.
Wow.
The world does not have, if everybody wealthy started to consume like this, we would run out of precious leather. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, so what they really invented heirloom luxury then.
So it's what Patek Philippe argues, right? That you never own a Patek Philippe. You basically only keep it for the next generation. You're a trustee for the next generation. And I think we used to have that idea. Remember, in our culture, even today, a lot of mothers would tell their children, I'm buying this for who you marry.
Yeah, that's true.
That's very common. This said, jewelry is not necessarily only for me. I'm buying this so that when you get married, this will be handed over.
Mm-hmm. That's also true for bridal wear, by the way.
Of course.
Yeah.
So this was already in our culture. Because see, if we had to consume luxury the way the Americans consume luxury, it's impossible to sustain this. There isn't enough. I mean, I don't know. We would have to mass breed crocodiles and then slaughter them to get, I don't know, some strange thing. We would not be able to get the precious skins with which a lot of luxury items in leather are made, or the wool with which a lot of precious, wool material is made.
अगर आपको ये क्लिप पसंद आई, make sure you subscribe to Dostcast Clips.